what you want and what's in your heart, and your paintings will be
Good evening. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever's going on in your geographical location. Welcome back to another video, and today we will be talking about how we, complex human beings full of squirrely little feelings and emotions, can use that and slap them into little paintings and bigger paintings with big canvases and sheets of paper, of course, to make beautiful art and therapize ourselves and get that cash money. So I want to start by saying that you do not need to be an artist or to be very experienced to be able to do these things that I am going to talk to you about. And you can just adapt them to your style and to the way your mind works and what your process and art style is. And even if you're not an artist, you can still use these as a way to kind of cope with their emotions and things like that, though. Because I was doing this a little bit before that, using it in my art, and it's just bam. I paused to write a little note just because I realized I didn't write a list before, so we're preparing halfway. So I want to start by the most obvious, what I think is the most obvious of them all, which is color. Because you look at a painting and you think, I mean, if you have an art class, you think, we're gonna look at what does the color tell us, what do the figures represented tell us. Especially if it's an abstract piece, you go for the texture, you go for the color, and those are the two primary things that you interpret. Two different people can think about the same color and the same process, and they can use it to express completely different emotions. And this just depends on who you are, what experience you have with the colors and the actions that I'm going to talk about. Emotions, when put on a painting or a drawing or whatever type of art you're making, are something extremely subjective, because I experience this a lot, which is I make art with a purpose, with a specific emotion clouding my mind, and then I show it to someone else, or I have shown it to my tutors in my course, and they just go, "Oh my god, that's so pretty, this is such a good expression of this and that," and I'm just like, okay. I was pissed when I made it. Sure thing. But it's an ethereal looking painting. You got it, guys. Hands on. So just keep it in mind that the fact that I am teaching you this is mostly for your own view of your own arts, because that's what matters the most anyway. And I just feel like sometimes I paint because I feel like painting, and I love it, but when I paint, when I'm thoroughly feeling it, and I'm just like, this is everything that is coming out of me right now, and I love it so freaking much. Oh my god, I just love the pieces that I make so much more, and I look at them and I'm so proud that like sometimes they represent absolutely nothing. You don't get what the hell is going on there, but I'm just like, that one slaps. That's amazing. So just keep it in mind, like, you will get this. You will get what emotions you were trying to put down, and you and no one else will understand it the same way. So just be prepared for like the fact that you may put a lot of efforts into expressing a certain thing, and other people will naturally interpret it different, as it happens with all possible art pieces that you make, because that's kind of what happens to us in college. We're just like showing our things to everyone else, and what happens in social media as well, like if it's not literal, people just interpret it in their own ways. So yeah, all this to say, art is subjective. So your color is gonna be subjective as well. So this is pretty easy. I don't usually, when I paint, I don't usually think about like, I'm feeling, okay, like the one that I do think, like sometimes I just think like, I'm pissed, I'm gonna use red. But it's not a conscious thing, because whenever like I'm like mad and I decide to paint, or I feel like painting and I just like do it impulsively, I actually do it simply, I just think what color, and then I just go red, or red or black, and or like just darker shades, which are basically what comes naturally to me. And this is another thing, like painting emotionally will actually help you develop your intuition so much, because it's about just what you're feeling and just doing it in the moment. Which is how I have arrived to most of my emotion expressing techniques that I tend to use. And this is pretty important. And you'll just get there, so don't be mad at yourself if you're like, sometimes you're just feeling like something and you want to paint that emotion and you don't know how, like, quite how to put it down on paper, because that also happens to me. Not to say that I'm like a pro or anything, but just I have been doing it for a while and it works more often than not, so I'll consider that a plus. But anyway, so this is like the type of thing, like I will be like, I'm mad, I'm gonna use red, and I'm gonna do things with red paint, and that's what I do, and I feel like it represents that. Or you can also have, for example, the painting that I showed you in my last video, the forest spirit painting. The base layer was yellow. I don't use yellow a lot. So actually, most of my paintings are mostly blue and green. But I used yellow, and I had no idea how the painting was gonna look. But I just felt like I wanted to paint a whole canvas in different shades of yellow. So I just painted yellow, and I'm just like going with my paintbrushes, and I'm just like really feeling the yellow. And sometimes this is the best thing to express yourself, because you don't need to know what you're gonna make. Like, that is completely unnecessary. You can just be like painting for the sake of painting, which is why like some people just paint figuratively. They paint like people, whatever they're doing, like if they're expressing emotions, if they aren't, they just like refer back to it, and that's your own style. That's fine. I mostly paint humans as well, but sometimes I also go abstract. I started like doing abstract stuff last summer, and now I'm doing it again, and it's fun. It helps me express myself and just have fun with colors. In fact, like if you look at my sketchbooks right now, like compared to like a year ago, like my sketchbooks just have so many like color experiments, and it helps you get loose and experiment with texture, and it just makes you so much more free. And you don't waste color whenever you're like doing something. Just like have stuff like this, and you have stuff like this, and stuff like this, and it keeps going on. Like this, you know? And sometimes it's just for the fun of it. Sometimes it actually helps you for future endeavors in the creative path, and that's how it is. You just go with the flow. Sometimes you just feel like putting on the colors. So if you just feel like painting a color, if you're just like, damn, I am so fucking happy, I wanna put on some green, go and paint a sheet of your sketchbook green. Go paint various sheets of your sketchbook green. Go paint a big paper. Go paint a big canvas. And just, if you feel nervous about just like, oh, I'm not gonna waste like an entire canvas with just this thing, you don't have to. Like, I think almost all paints you can paint over them. And it's like, you'll paint your canvas green right now, and you might actually like end up like going on, and later on you're just like, oh my god, like you're painting the canvas green, and then you feel like drawing something else on it, or you feel like scratching parts of the canvas, or you feel like putting another whole color on it, and then like you notice, and you're just like flowing, and you're just like creating something else that you hadn't planned. So take the risk, like go for it. If you don't like it, like you can always basically like just use it for like for like the base color of another painting that you decide to make. If you like it like that, you might actually end up liking it like that, and it'll stay. So that's great. So yeah, use color and like be instinctive with it. And if you don't feel like drawing anything specific, if you don't have like a vision, just paint a color and do color variants and just do what you feel like doing. So color is the first expression of emotion. Easy, accessible, anyone can do it. Each person ties a certain color to a certain emotion. It's the same thing as like trying to discuss with someone about what color was like their English folder in school, and what color was their math notebook and their science notebook. You go on the internet and you just find out that there's a lot of different opinions. I do not want to get cancelled, so I will not start stating my folder colors. I know how the internet works, and I will not expose myself to it. So going along with the wheel list, what ties into color is how fast you apply the color. How do you apply the color? And this is the topic 2 and 3 of this whole thing. So this applying the color gives you the opportunity of, number one, choosing what materials you're using, because you might be using big brushes, small brushes, you're using acrylic paint, oil paint, you're using a palette knife, you're using oil pastels, you're using normal pastels, you're using pencils, watercolor pencils, you're using charcoal, you're using graphite. So many things that you can use. You're using plaster or gesso, your ceramics, you know, like this applies to sculpture as well. Like I don't do a lot of sculpture, so I apologize if most of my terms aren't like sculpture friendly, but this can totally be applied to sculpture, even though like sculpture is an even more expressive thing, because you can squeeze and you can move it with your hands and elongate it and splash it, and just there's a lot of things that you can do, and it just makes you even more free to be expressive. So really, do not even like, don't worry about it. Most of it can be converted to sculpture. I do apologize if I do say stuff that is specific to painting and drawing though, because that's what I primarily focus on. So I will by default talk about that. So second and third is just, I'm going to keep giving the example of like rage painting, because this is like the first type of like emotional painting that I was able to access and to use in all these different ways. you'll see like the next topic, I actually use it for like joyful stuff. So I'm going to show you an example of how I have used texture and just speeds and also like applying the materials. So I do like pretty fast drawings when I'm feeling the burning fire of hell inside me. So for example, this is one of my like pages. I don't hold up. Yeah, this is one of my more like emotional painting pages. You can pretty much understand that this is pretty it's like pretty gnarly. My tutors thought this was ethereal, which is beautiful. It's very sweet of them. But you can like see that there's like all these like very very like forced type of strokes. I'm using a watercolor pencil with this, and all of this is just like I just kept like drawing, and then I would just like got like and getting my hand painted because these are like what activated by water, and then I would just like get like water, and I was just like I'm gonna do it on this side so I don't get painted. I'm just like really forcefully like smearing it and spreading the paint, and I just kept like working it in layers and just making fire basically. And this is the whole thing, like being emotional and expressive with your artwork also like makes you lose a lot of inhibition if you are willing to slowly get used to it and let go, because you might just find yourself needing to use your hands or your arms to do something, and you might stomp on your painting. Like no one can stop you. That's not very generalized, but no one can stop you. So like you should go for it, and you should just do whatever you feel called to do. This is just a big video to just say,
do what you want and what's in your heart, and your paintings will be
amazing. But that is pretty much it. However, so just be expressive. Sometimes like if you're happy and if you feel joyful, you might simply just feel like just being very delicate and just like free flowing and just do like circles, do more delicate, or just like joyful and wiggly lines. You might feel like using, for example, like ink brushes, not ink brushes, I mean like the fountain brush. Like ink fountain brushes, like the Chinese brushes that like just that let you like go from like really teensy tiny like things to like really bold. You just go like really like bold lines, and it's really delicate to like do line work and stuff like that. They're like one of my favorite materials ever. And you'll just like find yourself just really just going for whatever feels good to you, and just totally allow that. Don't create like expectations of what's your emotions being expressed to look like, because it totally does not need to be linear. So yeah, and I have been using this whole thing, like my tendency to scratch, to rub, to like forcefully write and kind of like attack the paper has come from years of journaling. For those of you that don't know me, I've been journaling for like years. I don't think maybe I never stopped, but like I just had like journals back to like 5th grade or 4th grade, and there was a certain point when I didn't know how else to express my emotions, when I was like very freaking overwhelmed, and I would just go completely hammer on the pages, and you have really haste drawings just then in the middle of my journals, just like full of like very violent circles, and you have places where like this is gonna sound weird, but like sometimes you really like you need to get it out of you, so you can like I have like scratched pages. I don't think I ever ripped a page because that wouldn't serve it, because the whole point is for the thing to stay in the journal. You have things that are smudged over. You have things that like I didn't bite, so not like I bit the journal like this. I'd be like just like going like on the page, you know, just sideways, just like I have done all of that in my journals, and I just at a certain point like this last year I just realized that all of that is so much better if you actually pull it into your art, and it just makes everything so much cooler, so much more expressive. So totally just sometimes just like focus yourself and just think like, okay, like what am I feeling, and like how does my body want me to express this, like what do I feel, like, what do I want to do, like do I want to jump, do I want to repeat any certain kind of motion, do I want to just like sway, you know, just ask yourself what is it that makes you vibe right now, like what does your body want to do, and just follow that intuitively, and just pick a color and find a way to like maybe you paint your arm and just like you move your arms, like just find a way that feels natural. And last but not least is one of the things that I found out about this year and that I started doing without knowing that it was actually a thing, and it is called automatic writing. You heard me right, automatic writing, which I do have examples of that, because I have done that in a lot of my recent paintings, and I use it as a base layer for the painting sometimes. So and it's a good way for me it's a good way of intention setting. I want my paintings these days to really be like very wholesome and to come from a place of meditation and just oneness, and being like very like aligned and in tune with myself. And I want them to be very full of life, and I want them to be joyful. So before getting into the painting itself, sometimes I don't even have a plan for the painting, and I just go hammer on the canvas with automatic writing. Let me see, should I leave? Yeah, I'll just like leave like space to like put stuff here. And the automatic writing is dope. The automatic writing is basically just about just writing about whatever comes through your mind, obviously, without focus in if you're writing it in a readable way. So if I have put up the example right now, so basically what I do, and like this is really funny because I just have these big canvases, and I just like sometimes I just put myself like this on them. I just like have contact, because I don't even care about how I'm doing it, and if I'm seeing what I'm writing, and if I'm writing it like beautifully or not. So I just grab some pencils or like maybe some like oil pastels or normal soft pastels. I pick a color that I feel like I am in tune with that day, that just I feel like using, and I start writing, and I really do a lot of like mindfulness, or I just like write things that make me feel good. I write things that make me feel connected. I write things that make me feel like I can do good stuff. Sometimes I write about my friends. I write about my like feeling good, feeling loved. I write about just the world working out for me. So I just really I think about like what brings me joy, or what is the intention of this painting. Like, is this painting about being like in line with the universe? Is this painting about love? Is this painting about being like in a very deep, calm, meditative state within yourself? Is it about nature? And if it's about nature, is it about connection, uh, connection with nature? Which is like, because we're all like nature, and like nature is us, and we're just interconnected with everything. Like, what is it about? And I just start writing, and by the time that I found myself, I'm just like, wow, like I'm just going hammered, and like, and I change positions, and I kind of like, sometimes I just like stop, and I just like relax my muscles, and I like lay around, and sometimes I just like smooth things over, and I keep writing more, and I lie on my back, and sometimes I just lie on the floor when I'm getting inspiration. I have my family has seen me do this, and they are very confused. Sometimes I'm just like lying on the floor with like a huge canvas on top of me, just like. And it's still very funny. And is it like, it's just really about just like what you feel like saying. Sometimes you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's alright. That's alright. Like, honestly, I mean, some people's art is actually about like knowing what the hell they're doing. Can't relate. But some people like do have a very like intense and like well-defined pointer, and that's also important. That's also valid. So definitely not gonna shit in your pot. But yeah, so for me, that's how it works, and I just like write as like the base layer of many things. Sometimes I smooth over like if I can work the material after it's dry, I just smooth it over. Sometimes I paint over it, and you can still see some of the writing. Sometimes I do like the sketching layer of the painting, and then I start writing on top of it, and then I keep painting more. Sometimes I leave it like that. It's really just to whatever feels right for me. Like, I ended up, maybe I think this is like the example that I put here. I started writing intuitively in one of in a canvas one time that I had like almost like the last thing that I did before I came back to uni. And I was just like writing it, and I was like, I have no freaking idea what I'm gonna do with this canvas. And then I finished writing, and I was just like, I'm not gonna do anything else on this, am I? Because you just create such a deep connection with your arts when you're putting parts of yourself that feel good, and you're putting your thoughts and your emotions into the painting, that you just sometimes just feel like putting stuff on top of it and just covering it is actually hindering the interpretation and the whole feeling of the piece rather than completing it more. And this is the whole point I've been like insisting on. My practice is just like that, actually sometimes doing more and developing a piece to a place that is quote unquote finished actually sometimes doesn't drive it to be better. It just adds more layers to it. So I've been like trying to like stop myself whenever I'm like, this is good, I like this looks nice. And in that way, it's just like a good system for me to try and also question when a piece is finished. So yeah, so those are color, texture created by the way that you apply the colors in painting, speed in which you do it, and it's automatic writing. Those are the 4 things that I had to present to you as ways to pass emotions into your pieces. Use this for journaling, use this for drawing, use this for painting. Do whatever you want. Like, man, this can help you just get it out of you. You don't have to make it presentable. You don't have to make it for anyone to see. Just try it out on your own. See if it drives you. Sometimes it might not work for everyone. I don't guarantee it does. But it's a cool system for me, and I really like it. So don't beat yourself up if it doesn't look aesthetic. And just remember that you can paint on top of it, and you can do it again. And this does not need to be your and all piece, and it doesn't have to be the end of the process for that piece, so you can always keep working on it if you feel like it's correct and it's the right thing for you to do. So yeah, once more, everyone that has joined the family so far, thank you so much. It is great to have you here, and it's great to have the honor of talking about my art process, talking about myself and the things that I use, my tools, and the things that just make me happy about my art, and it's just great to share it with you guys. I am really glad if it helped you. Please do tell me if it was helpful to you, if it was just a good time and like a good like research type of video. Also cool, really great that you like watched until the end. But I will always be willing to talk more about my process, and if you guys want anything out of me and to know any more like details that I might have mentioned today, just drop it in the comments and I will totally reference it in future videos. So thank you so much guys for being here and for paying attention and watching me and having fun with me. Stay tuned for more fun stuff and future videos. All of you crackalicious beings, go out there and go be creative, because you can, and you're gonna do great. Bye.